And I wanted people to really work out their mental and emotional and spiritual muscles and get really fit and strong on the inside and have the attitudinal musculature to be able to weather any storm.
Welcome, Kate, to Unleash the Knowledge's podcast, Everyday Extraordinary, where it's my job to push the message that we all have extraordinary capabilities within us that I believe simply need to be channeled and activated. I do this by having amazing conversations with everyday extraordinary people like yourself. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So you are the new author of the Full Spirit Workout, which is so interesting, and I've shared about it a ton, as many people know that are listening here or follow me, follow Unleash the Knowledge and the brand on social media, that it is definitely a new kind of breath of fresh air to attack, anyone's insecurities or just what they're going through on a daily basis, to have this spiritual fitness workout that we're going to dive into. So and there's just so many other things I want to hop into, in the sense of how you've bounced from a decorated champion swimmer to a journalist to a freelancer, TV personality, a model, and so forth. So, I just wanted to start off with saying that I have like this mission to be the modern day Renaissance man, in the sense that we all should have like multiple careers, multiple disciplines and skills. And you're the living image of that.
Oh, thank you. Well, we're multidimensional beings, and don't ever let anyone put you in a box. And I think my career, my life is a testament to growing and expanding and stretching our comfort zones. And when you feel stagnant or stuck or unfulfilled, it's okay to change your mind and change careers and try something new. And by the way, nothing is wasted. That's a personal mantra. And so all of your skills and everything that you've learned along the way, if you allow it to, and if you identify and leverage your strengths, you'll find that, everything you've done helps you in your current role. As I like to say to my clients, what made you successful in the past, and really reflecting on that and taking those characteristics and strengths and leveraging them in your current role.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. In the sense of, from my own experience, you have all these different experiences in the past, and then when you come across a new obstacle or even a new achievement, whatever that may be in the present tense, you're able to call upon all those past experiences and be able to make the right decision moving forward. So it's definitely, if you ask me, a way better approach to have a multiple, array of experiences in the past that will allow you to make the best decision moving forward.
Yeah, and you'll never be a boring dinner guest. You'll always have some stories, something interesting to say. And I think we're here to be challenged and to try different things. And ideally, if you're doing life in a meaningful way, you are going to shift and change and outgrow some things and outgrow some people. And that's a good thing.
I love it. Well, we're going to kick off with talking about the book, of course, because it is your latest big project. And as I said before, you are a former athlete. You've been competitive in your sport and, of course, just being successful in your own way. I'd love to ask kind of what ultimately allowed you to make the decision to write the book. And then also, who do you believe it's perfect for? Who's that ideal reader for the book?
Sure. So I was, as you said, a journalist for many years, and I was writing articles for several publications, and I would get so many responses from people all over the world. And I just realized that sharing my story is so much bigger than me. And I was seeing how it was helping people, and it really lit me up in that way. And a book is a massive undertaking. As you know, you're a book expert, and it is so much work, but it was just this calling that I had. I really do consider this a divine life assignment. It's dedicated to my two dear friends, Sam and Rolf, who both died by suicide in 1 year. And that obviously shook me to my core and changed the whole trajectory of my life. And so dedicating my work to them and anyone who struggles with mental health, which, as I've discovered, is everyone. It's all of us. We all struggle with our mental health. I think there's this misconception that if you look a certain way, you make a certain amount of money, you achieve a certain level of material success, that you don't struggle with mental health or confidence or anything like that. And I really want to blow the lid off that and give people more freedom to just be themselves. It's the human experience to experience a wide range of emotions, and that's everything that's right with you, right? So I think
Right.
I wanted to give people the keys to a better way of living, and as someone who had a 17-year competitive swimming career, I knew how hard I had to train my physical muscles to compete at a high level. And as I experienced these tragedies and was caught on the hamster wheel in New York City with this forward facing career, it was an unsustainable lifestyle, and I wanted people to really work out their mental and emotional and spiritual muscles and get really fit and strong on the inside and have the attitudinal musculature to be able to weather any storm. And that said, I think this book is perfect for anyone who can read, young or old. I've had 80-year-olds say, "Oh my gosh, this helped me immensely, even at this stage in my life, have a new way of looking at things." And then, the high school and college kids who are so stressed out and are under so much pressure, a lot of self-imposed pressure. You should really be enjoying yourself in high school and college, right?
Yes.
But they're so stressed out about grades and all the things. And so really giving people the tools to navigate life in a more effective and fun way.
That's awesome. And I love the last point you made in the sense that it's specifically for the younger folks. And like, we're going to dive into that a bit too, because pretty much, I guess the 80s and the 90s, even obviously before my time, it was hustle, hustle, hustle. And it was this, whether it was work on Wall Street was the craze. That's where everyone wanted to be. But now today it's like, let's take a step back and actually think of how I'm feeling. But on top of that new mindset, social media is taking over and it's this highlight reel and so forth. So, yeah, I mean, you have so many great points in the book, but I mean, there's so many just underlining meaning or messages of check in with yourself before anything else. And I think that's super important. Um, so
Yeah, I think we're all struggling in some ways. And I think a good practice, people are always like, okay, what can I do? And everyone wants the instant gratification. And I'm like, great, I've
yeah,
got something for you. And I actually developed this during the lockdown, and it's what I call my sit and stare time. And it's a minimum 5 minutes a day. I do more like an hour, and I break it up throughout the day, throughout my meetings. And you sit and stare, and you do exactly what it says. You sit, stare out the window, stare in front of you, and really check in with yourself as you would a small child and say, how are you doing? What can I do for
yeah.
you? What do you need? And if you're feeling extra courageous and bold, you can say, great job, and acknowledge yourself for not losing your cool over that upsetting email, not telling the jerk that they're being a jerk and potentially ruining the relationship forever. And so that is what spiritual fitness is at its core. It's the non-reactivity. It's taking the pause. It isn't the grind and hustle and forcing and controlling. It's the pause. It's the deep breath. It's listening to that divine inner wisdom that's always available to us. We just aren't practiced at listening. But you start doing your sit and stare time, you become more practiced at listening. You start making better decisions. You start feeling this newfound sense of confidence, and your relationships improve, and are approved.
Yeah.
And you don't have to try so hard. You naturally become the person who attracts the opportunities and experiences and the wealth that you desire.
I love that. That was actually one of my next questions to define spiritual fitness. But to your point of just figuring out what's right for you, and also taking that time, and COVID of course was a earth shattering experience for literally 99% of the world. For me it was a massive time where I could take that inner dive into myself and figure out what the heck I was doing the past 6 years when I was immersed in college basketball, and now I'm out and I can see what the next step is. But um that hopefully at least I like to think that that time was pushed for people to have that kind of conversation with themselves. But your book's pushing towards that too, and obviously a pandemic doesn't need to be the reason for someone to do that. It should be on a constant basis. So all great points. And you kick off the book with speaking about these 4 A's: accomplishments, achievements, accolades, and awards, which seem to be a mindset of yours during your athletic career, and always striving to be the best you could be. How is this, that 4 A's mindset? How do you like view that today? But also, what is your advice? Like, is your advice different from that 80-year-old versus the Gen Z high schooler and so forth? Is it a cookie cutter answer, or is it different per person?
I don't think there's anything wrong with success and wanting success and achievement and awards and all of the things. And I think many of us, especially those of us who are type A, we strive for that. I think the thing to remember is at what cost. And I talk very openly in the book about this need to perform and achieve so that I felt safe in the world and my parents would love me, and I needed to impress strangers, I thought, because as this little 4-year-old, I overheard the swim coach communicating to my mother
Right.
that he didn't think I was a very good swimmer, and what that set up for me internally. And so, great, I broke all the records. I was the state and national champion, but at what cost? I was filled with turmoil, the anxiety, the insecurity, the self-doubt. And so there's nothing wrong with striving and achieving our goals, but I think we need to ask ourselves, why do you want to achieve this goal? What would that mean to you? And it is about making meaning. It is about deeper fulfillment than just all the externals, because science shows, and my life has certainly dictated it, that all of the shiny objects, all of the things that we think are going to make us happy actually don't move the needle. What moves the needle are things like acts of kindness and service, sleep, exercise, time affluence, having the time to do what you actually want to do
Yeah.
rather than all the stuff you kind of are obligated to do. Social connection. And my personal favorite, the gratitude visit that I speak about in the book. And I recommend everybody check that out and do this exercise. It's life-giving. And so I think in terms of advice to other people, I think I invite people to really examine and explore their why. I
Mhm.
think oftentimes we're just unconsciously plugged into societal standards we don't even believe in, and are trying to keep up with Johnny from Instagram or Sally next door, what our parents want, what our siblings are doing. And we haven't spent that time to even explore why do I want to do this? Why is this important to me? And when you have a really strong why, for me, it was these men I lost to suicide. It keeps you going the days you want to throw in the towel, the days where it's really hard, because you have a purpose greater than yourself.
Most definitely. And from a sports background, that is, to a T, the way you should have, there's, even in my experience, Coach Hurley would always say you could win the Player of the Year award, you can win the Defensive Player of the Year award, but that's just an award that can, that can lead to your fueling your ego. But truly, why are you doing what you're doing? I mean, most of these kids are working because they want to create a future for themselves and their family. So that's what pushes them forward. But I love that. That's a powerful message. I do want to read your subtitle quickly because it talks about your the full book is a 10-step system to shed your self-doubt, strengthen your spiritual core, and create a fun and fulfilling life. And of course, the book is broken up into these 10 steps. Do you, from your client work and just hearing from readers, do you believe that there's one specific step that most challenge or most find most challenging to come to terms with and also effectively achieve?
I think people are all struggling with being able to sit quietly in a room by themselves and reflect and turn off all the distractions and really get underneath the hood of the car and
Hmm.
determine and discover who they are underneath the labels and the limitations and the roles that they play in their lives. And then again, getting really clear on that why. I've seen that everybody, I mean, I work with billionaires and some of the best and brightest, and everyone, I like to say this because I people don't believe it always, but everyone struggles with confidence. In my case, they don't need help with their job. They're quite skilled at their job, or quite skilled as athletes, but they struggle with uncomfortable conversations, conflict,
Mm.
um, the mindset. I mean, I'm seeing it play out in the Olympics. Literally, the greatest athletes of all time are starting to melt down, or maybe luckily they can still physically perform. They're not there mentally or emotionally. And I give it to people because it's been COVID, you're away from your friends and family. There's so much stress and pressure. And the more everyone wants success.
Yeah.
The thing that people don't talk about is the more success you get, the more expert you are in your field, or the LeBron James, the Simone Biles, all of those people. Think about the extraordinary stress and pressure they're under, the expectations, not just that they place on themselves, but that the world places on them. And then what do? We set them up for failure, where it's like they have the bad day, or you get a silver medal. You are second best in the world.
Yeah.
And the media and people speak to you like you're a disappointment and you didn't do a good enough job. I think it's so harmful. And we can get mad at the media and everybody else who's sitting at home with no athletic talent, criticizing and talking crap. But I think if we're honest with ourselves, we're all guilty of dishing out some pretty harsh criticism to ourselves. And so this is the opportunity to really examine that. And the good news about that is when you're in that space, you attract a whole lot less criticism and judgment because you're so grounded in your own self-worth that comes from within rather than all of the externals.
Yeah, it's a powerful message, especially when you are hearing the third party messages, the Twitter comments, and everyone who thinks they have the right opinion, but obviously they're. I mean, my biggest message is the man in the arena. I love that message, and that's truly the guy who's marred with the dust and blood, who's been through it, who's practiced and so forth, is on the stage, and whether he succeeds or messes up, he's doing the work, and it's always the commentary from elsewhere that could rip him apart, but obviously coming to terms or knowing yourself, knowing that you're confident in yourself and being okay with, more or less the person in the mirror, you can succeed in your own way, which actually segues into this other question. And we talked a bit about the highlight reels of social media and instant gratification and displaying this picture perfect life. So how do you think, like, what are some actionable tips or steps someone can take to free themselves from just feeling so consumed with comparison and also erasing these limited beliefs that flood their mind? And it's not even that they tell themselves, it's coming from so many external places.
Yeah, I think you can start with logging off, and if you are feeling the need, it is an addiction now that we all experience. You do feel the need to log on, really setting an intention for yourself, and being on social media as a way to genuinely connect with people and also spread a message. You're very good at that for really adding value. It's not just all about you. It's what value can I add today? What
Right.
engagement can I have that can help somebody else? So I think coming with those intentions rather than focusing on what I can get. And that's not just social media, that's everything. But I think too, if you do some of these activities in my book where you have your phone turned off and you spend, instead of that hour on Instagram, you spend it visualizing your miraculous day. You spend that time savoring the conversation you're having. Savoring, for me, I have my ritual every morning. I savor my espresso. It is a ritual. I
Mm,
ponder
yeah.
where the coffee beans came from. I order from all over the world. And I think of everything that went into my little cup of espresso. And it fills me with appreciation. And so again, it sounds so simple because it is, but it isn't easy because we're bombarded with all the messages and then we wonder why we feel like crap. So I think along those lines, I've come up in my research with the 5 P's of confidence. And the first one is presence. So when you are fully present in the moment,
Mhm.
you can't be taken out by all the nonsense and chaos. Like right now, I am only focused on you in this conversation. So I'm filled with joy. I feel energetic. I'm enthusiastic. I'm just like, I feel amazing. Not because everything in my life is perfect, but I'm dwelling in the present moment. And it's also about bringing your presence. So many people are like, oh, I'm not achieving my goals. This isn't happening. And I say kindly, but firmly, I don't believe you that you even say you want this goal. You're showing up like you don't mean it. And that's what the full spirit is too, right? It is a play on the full body workout, but it
Yep.
also is about bringing your authentic truth and power, your passion, your presence to everyone that you meet and everything that you do. So show up like you mean it. And also the second P, I'll quickly just say, have patience. This stems from the Latin word for suffering. So I get it. We all are suffering while we wait for the thing that we want. But trust in the process, trust in yourself, know that everything is working out behind the scenes in your favor. Whether you believe it or not, I choose to believe and co-create with that force and power. And life goes a lot better when I'm doing that.
That's awesome. A couple of things I want to unpack there. The first off is I just want to point out that the book is structured so well where you have journaling exercises, you have meditation. So there's, not only are you providing value and you're providing knowledge to people, and like I've shared many times with my posts and so forth, it's very research backed, which is tremendous. But you give people like almost no excuse to go apply the work that they just consumed. So yeah, I love that. I just want to note that quickly, um, which is great. And then um, you know, we like one specific example. You take that risk. I want to talk a little bit about risk taking right now because that's something I'm all four. That's how I think you truly live in the moment. Or actually, quick side note to that point of living in the moment. I've always said, and I think I'm going to get it very soon, but a tattoo that's on my wrist that says, be present where your feet are. And that's just that reminder of wherever your feet are, be there mentally, you're there physically. And especially with technology today, it's so easy to be mentally in one place and then physically in another place. So another tidbit to throw in there. But you leave a stable job or a place, I believe you were in Florida, and then you leave for Africa for a freelance gig with your then boyfriend. Um, big jump for you. I could relate to this because I took trips. I spent a couple weeks in Mexico and built houses for folks out there. And I mean, that just grounds you to know how, fortunate you are. You describe in the book how you're like, I would love just a nice shower or a bath or a coffee or something that's anything but this just dust and dirt everywhere. Um, I loved it. Like there's two-part question because your first step, I believe, is to stretch your comfort zone. So
Yep.
you leaving that job and going to Africa was absolutely stretching your comfort zone. How necessary is it for people to do that, first off? And then how can someone, as they're listening to this, be like, okay, what's the next step? How can I go stretch my comfort zone? Obviously, they might have a job, they have a family, they have, a mortgage or rent. Like, what are other ways that they can stretch their comfort zone? Maybe not as drastically as going to Mexico or Africa to do some service work.
Right. I mean, I think stretching your comfort zone is as vital to life as eating and sleeping. This is where life gets really juicy. You expand and grow into your most self-actualized self. You learn so much about yourself. You become the person who can achieve your cherished goals. This is when life becomes really fun. I'm not saying it's easy or always comfortable. It's kind of uncomfortable, right? We're getting out of the comfort zone where life is really comfy, but this is where things get more meaningful, more fulfilling. And in my experience, when you take that leap of faith, when you take the risk, the universe steps up to co-create with you and assist you and in so many miraculous, beautiful ways. And for me, I don't know. I would feel so bored if I didn't constantly challenge myself. And it isn't about just moving, or maybe stretching your comfort zone is having the uncomfortable conversation. Maybe it's leaving the relationship. If you're like me, it's getting into a long-term committed relationship. If you're, a very independent, bona fide single person, I'm like a female George Clooney. So, but I'm willing to do it. I'm not saying I'm willing to settle, but I'm absolutely willing to do it. That's a major stretch though, when you're used to doing life on your own. I think you can, even if you go a different way to work each morning and stretch yourself that way. I used to do that because the long way to work, it was more beautiful. And I like to be in nature. Maybe stretching your comfort zone is talking to yourself more kindly. And, we get so upset when other people judge and criticize and reject us. But if we're honest, again, no one really judges or criticizes or rejects us more than ourselves. So I think really getting a handle on that inner self-talk. And I think just even being willing to read a book, and maybe even it's outside of your genre. And that's why I included these Coach Kate check-ins at the end of each step, because I know not everyone can afford coaching or even executive coaching, but I'm asking you the questions that really get underneath the hood of the car, and you start to discover things about yourself. I mean, I will ask my clients these questions and you see this bewildered look on their face. Just like, what's going on? And they're like, I've never talked about any of this stuff with anyone, even my spouse. And I tell my spouse everything. So, and again, it's all professional. We're not even talking about personal things. So I think asking ourselves these questions, that's stretching our comfort zone in itself. Spending 5 minutes quietly by yourself, I think that's majorly stretching a lot of people's comfort zone. But just be willing. One of my favorite spiritual principles is our good intentions are not enough. Our willingness is everything. So I just invite you to just be willing, whether it's to stretch your comfort zone, to, take a leap of faith, to exercise your inner muscles, whatever it is. And then I'm just so excited to hear about the rewards and the results that you experience for yourself.
Definitely. And I love that you touched upon the one piece that I wanted to talk about too, not in super depth, but how when you take risks or when you give yourself a shot to experience something different, the universe literally works in your way. Now, you could believe in law of attraction, you could believe in a divine power. For me, it's God sent, you seem to be the same way. Doesn't have to be that way though, but I do think that there's so much value behind taking a different direction, taking a different jump, doing something different. Because obviously, if you want to expect a different result, you need to take a different approach. The definition of
Absolutely.
insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting something different. But just two messages I want to harp on again is journaling and sitting and staring. I think those are tremendous. I mean, um, whether you have a coach and you have someone to speak to, that's fantastic. Obviously, that's an investment, whether it's a therapist, whatever that may look like. But anyone can have a notebook. Anyone can sit down and write down their random thoughts, their morning thoughts, whatever that may look like. And from my own experience and what I will continue to share with the listeners, and obviously you feel the same way. There's a tremendous return on investment by doing that, taking that time.
Yeah, and I mean, even going back to a point we were just talking about, I want everyone to just think of, a risk that they took, or something where they put themselves out there, and think of someone you've met on that journey. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "On your journey, mighty companions will join you." And if nothing else, or if you can't do it for yourself, do it for somebody else. Do it for a cause or organization greater than yourself. I think of so many times where I've taken a risk or stretched my comfort zone. And I think of like Africa. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would have never met that person who's now a lifelong friend. I would have never met this person who I'm now hosting a retreat with. I never met this person who's my best friend who I talk to every day, whether it's where you choose to go to school, or, I mean, I went back to school again, at 40.
Yeah.
And I just think I think of the people I've met. I cannot imagine my life without. One is a business partner. One is a best friend that I've just met, 2 or 3 years ago. So I just offered that up too, because think of those gems that you've met that you wouldn't have met if you were just staying in your little box.
Right, right. And even if you're someone who's so reluctant to make that change, you more times than not, I'm sure you had some sort of experience, whether it was someone pulled you out of the house, brought you to the beach, brought you to a cabin, whatever that looked like. Think about those moments. And I mean, speaking from a mid 20-year-old, like I think that there's so much value in knowing that, wow, like, yeah, I did have that experience, or I met that person, or I thought this way, then I did it before, and so forth. So for me, I'm all about the compound effect too. If you keep having those types of experiences, like you said with the MLK quote, like it's things start moving in your direction and people start coming into your life that you perfectly need. So
Yeah. And be willing, again, willingness, be willing to let some people fall away and make space for the mighty companions.
mm, that's powerful. Awesome. Well, I have a question to bring us back a bit. In your life, like you said, you went back to school, you're an executive professional leadership coach, you're working with some of more or less the most disciplined personalities, we'd probably say, someone who's probably went against the grain on their own before the mighty companions came. With all that you know now, I'd love to hear your advice that you'd give back to your 20-year-old self.
Oh, wow. And I'm thinking of myself in college. And I want to just give her a hug, because it's amazing how much stress and pressure we put on ourselves, even at that age, or even I think especially at that age. And now, I mean, I didn't have, like, aging myself, I've already said my age, but we didn't have social media in college. I got my first cell phone after I graduated from college. And I just think how liberating. I mean, you had to actually meet up with people in person, or hope you ran into someone on campus so you could go have lunch with them. There was answering machines. And so, but how liberating. So I think to my 20-year-old self, I would say, you're doing such a fantastic job. I'm so proud of you. Just keep going. And I did have a lot of fun back then, but I think I would invite myself to even have more fun, and not take things so seriously. And, I've always been a little bit of a jokester and prankster. And so I've never taken myself too seriously. I do believe in having fun. Fun is in my book subtitle, but,
Yep.
I really just want to pull my younger self aside and hug her and just say, I see you. I know you're going through some rough times, and, but it's like, I've got Kobe Bryant's Mamba Mentality book sitting behind me, and I feel
Yes.
his spirit and presence around me a lot. And I literally hear that man and his spirit saying to me almost daily, keep going. And I see it in all caps. I feel it. And it does even make me emotional, because I think all of those moments were just like, enough, or we're exhausted, we're overwhelmed, we're tired of the nonsense. just keep going. It gets better. And again, you're building that inner musculature that's going to serve you so well in your whole life. Keep going.
That's yeah, I love that. And my mindset towards that might be different than others in the sense that when I do go through hardships, or now that I made it past a lot of hardships, if I ever come across some more of the present day ones, I have this mentality of kind of what we talked about in the beginning where, okay, this stinks, but I'm going to be able to now call upon this experience in the future. So I don't think that's definitely probably not a typical, mindset for folks, but I'd love to share that with people that if you can somehow pull yourself out of a dark hole in the sense that it's like, hey, what I'm going through right now is going to be a blessing down the road, or it's going to be something I can look back upon and call upon and know that this is how I handled it. I think that's powerful. And that as those stack up, you're able to keep going far more than you
Yeah.
were before.
And I think when we're younger too, we want everything we want and we want it right now. I mean, that's
Yeah.
also the human condition, but especially when you're younger. And so what I even want to say to you, I mean, you've
Yeah.
already done so much at your age, but there is so much wisdom that occurs in the waiting, in being patient, and everything that you learn as you're on your way to your goal. And again, I mean, I talk about it openly in the book too, about, not getting the book deal right away and the things that I went through. And now I think, oh my gosh, I'm so glad, because in that process, in that gap, I was able to finish my master's degree and get 7 new certifications and really write a much better book than if it happened on my time. So I
Yeah.
just remind everybody of that. And it's, we don't always want to hear it, but it is so true.
I agree with that 10 times over. I love it. So still in the thinking back to yourself, but now as a literal certified professional leadership coach, what do you believe is the number one skill young professionals should be looking to master today?
I really think it's confidence. And I did my whole, research paper on this, because you have confidence. And I'm not talking about the performance confidence that we can all fake or pretend for 10, 20 minutes and dial it in.
Yeah.
I am talking about that confidence that can only be built from within. The best part is we can all do this. We don't have to have a Harvard degree to do it, but it does take the intentional practices. And I did spend a lot of time in the book outlining this. It's a theme and concept that comes up again and again and again in my work with the CEOs, with the professional athletes. Everyone needs to boost their confidence, and I lay out so many ways to do that. But you're genuinely confident. And again, I'm going to bring him up probably a few times now. The Kobe Bryant, that confidence of, do you think that man cared what anybody in the arena thought of him?
Mm-mm.
Absolutely not. That's inner confidence. It isn't dictated on what people think or how much money you make or any of those things.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite thing about Kobe Bryant. His I don't care what you think about me attitude. I've never seen anybody else that confident about it ever. And not cocky, but confident in who you are, regardless of what people think or say, and valuing our own thoughts and opinions over anything.
Absolutely. And you can't see it, but I have a Muhammad Ali canvas art above my head here. And the quote is, confidence has no competition. Now, for me, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, I don't even like the word confidence so much. I feel like a lot of people might have a negative connotation to it. What I love is self belief. And I think Kobe Bryant, I mean, what you just explained is self belief. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts quickly on that. But like just having the idea that, you're enough. And also, I don't care what the next guy has to think about me or if he believes in me, or even if I have a great coach who believes in me. It's like at the end of the day, if I don't believe in myself, then, I can't accomplish anything, more or less.
I love that. And it's the self belief with the self action. I love that I'm intuitive. And I believe it was you. I know it was you even posted it, a quote from the book about, and it's not just the self belief, I'm paraphrasing, but it's making choices that reflect that. So it's, yes, the self belief and being confident, but then the self action where we're making choices that actually reflect that belief in ourselves. Because you can, again, this isn't just about posting some cute quote on Instagram. We have to actually believe the words that we're thinking and
Right.
feeling and saying, and then make choices that go along with that belief, right? And again, it sounds so simple because it is, but not always easy. And I see this disconnect all the time. And for me now, again, the moments I can't do it for myself, I do it for the universe, God, the higher power, because it's always watching. He's always watching. She's always watching. And, you can sit and say, oh, I want to get married. I want to be in a serious committed relationship. Okay, great. But then you're dating wildly inappropriate people. So I'm calling myself out there. Obviously, I'm happy to, no shame. I'm happy to do that because, so again, you can't do it for yourself. Don't confuse the universe. So make choices that actually reflect what you really want.
That's powerful. And I don't want to go on a tangent, but someone had told me that there was like a self-help guru, more or less, that like doesn't work out or eats crap and pretty much is preaching the opposite. And I mean, at that scale, the person probably had millions of followers or something. It's just crazy to see that. But the best you could do is obviously look after yourself and be a reflection of, let your thoughts be a reflection of your actions and your messages that you send out to the world.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I got like 4 kind of rapid fire questions that you can answer, in a sentence or 2 if you'd like. But first one is, who have been, well, maybe Kobe Bryant might pop up again, but who have you been your inspirations growing up and then throughout your adult life, whether it's a friend, family member, or someone that maybe all of us know?
The first person that came to mind was my swim coach, Larry Lyons. He instilled in us so many, not just swimming skills, but life skills. And one of them, that I always hear him saying is hurry up and catch up, and really stressing the importance of being on time. And just that's ingrained for me for life. And just so many life lessons that he taught us. A big one that stays with me too is, when you take care of the little things, the big things take care of themselves, because I think we can all focus on those daily little things. In swimming, it's the fingertip finishes, not breathing in and out of your turns. That leads to the state and national championships, because again, you're building the habits that become these improved behaviors that lead to increased results. So the little daily habits, they really add up. And I think, again, if we take stock, a lot of us have created some bad habits, not to shame or blame ourselves, but just being willing to clean those up a bit. So he stands out. I mean, we don't have all day, but I think growing up as an athlete, the athletes that it was the mental game, because physical talent, a lot of it, well, it's God given. You can thank mom, dad, grandma, and grandpa. I think it's the people that maybe aren't as gifted athletically, but that do become the champions, and just the mental and emotional toughness. I've always admired that, the grit, I'm not giving up. I think anyone who is just willing to put in the work is someone that I look up to in any area.
Definitely. No, I relate with that too. I was never the most skilled athlete. I was a part of the teams. I was, the gritty guy. I was the glue guy, more or less is the best term. I was, putting things together. But I did model after, or I just loved you can not put a price or an effort level on intensity, mindset, and hustle, and all those kind of intangible skills. So I like that too. So obviously you're the new author of the Full Spirit Workout that we're going to keep showing. Is there one book or a few books? I know you mentioned one in here. I'm forgetting the name at the moment in the beginning, but books that you find yourself either rereading or gifting out to others?
The book that just came to mind is A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And it's been out for 20, 30 years. It was on Oprah all the time back in the day. But I think it's based on a metaphysical text, A Course in Miracles. And just what I love about it is that it is a mindset training. And I just like books that make me think in a broader scope, remind me about love and feeling the love all around me and within me, rather than, what's usually presented to us in our culture. And that book always stood out to me because it was just a complete 180 from the thinking of the world. And it really did inspire me. And I became a student of A Course in Miracles just to give myself a whole way of thinking. So I think any books, I even think of textbooks, and I think that's why I always keep going back to school, because I just have this thirst for knowledge and to keep expanding my brain and doing research. Anything that can make me think differently is a favorite book. And of course, I've said it several times, but Kobe's Mamba Mentality. Clearly I like things that challenge me mentally and really make me the MVP on the team with the mental toughness, which isn't always easy. And obviously, I'm quite passionate about mental health, given my work as a suicide prevention activist and someone who's lost loved ones to suicide. I take it very seriously. I think we're all starting to see the effects of not caring for our mental health, and it frightens me deeply. And you never think that you're going to grow up and be a suicide prevention activist, but I'm honored to do the work and start to erase the stigma in a more profound way.
Absolutely. And I'm always pushing people that they need to be a lifelong learner. And whether that is academic driven, which, you have some interest there. Personally, I was a terrible high school student, but then I flipped a switch when I got to college and I fell in love with the process of, learning all types of new information. But even to directly, correlate with your book and your work, being a lifelong learner with yourself, figure out who the heck you are, and then making those right choices moving forward and growing that awareness, I think is wildly important, more so today than probably ever before, with all the externals and the distractions that we're all facing with. So awesome. Those are great book recommendations. You said this really early in the beginning, but I want to ask again, do you have a personal mantra or a phrase or a message that you say to yourself every morning or every night before you go to bed?
I have several. One that just came to me is, what's best for me is either already here or on its way.
Hmm.
And another divine download that I got, that it's at the beginning of step 7, and this quote has gone viral everywhere. And that's not about like, oh, look at my quote, but it's really a testament to a lot of people could relate to this. And it's being okay if it happens and okay if it doesn't is a very powerful place to be. And that is just such a message of hope and relief, and really embodying that, not just understanding something intellectually, but bringing that intellect down into the body where it lives as wisdom in our bones and in our muscles and in our body, and then taking that wisdom and implementing it with our hands. And I really do believe that. And that's why sometimes when it's like, oh man, or I wish this was happening more, that it's just being okay if it happens and okay if it doesn't, knowing and trusting that when it is your time, it will. And maybe it doesn't look exactly like this, but it'll be something that's even more beneficial for you and the people around you. So just keep trusting.
I love that. And I think there's definitely a message behind there too, that you don't experience things that you're not ready for. And, even if the kid who's 17 getting drafted to the MLB or something is doing great, more or less, he was probably ready for it, or he's, doing great. And I mean, not that I really want to touch upon this, but I do make this note that a lot of these TikTok stars that are blowing up, if you actually look at kind of how they started, they were on Vine, they were on Musically, these other apps. So they've been perfecting their craft, whether that's dancing in front of the camera or doing whatever else they do. They have been working at it. And, I'm sure here and there's some just people that go viral once, but I don't think those people are sustainable. But those that are sustainable have kind of been doing the work. And then, I talk about Zuckerberg too, how, yeah, at 22 or 23, he built Facebook. But like, if you look at what he's done at like 15, he was building like an app then that was 10 years prior. So, yeah, I'm a firm believer in whatever happens to you. It's whether it presents itself in a positive way or it's not, you're not ready for it yet. It's simply from that fact that, you're still growing, you're still getting ready for that moment.
And two things I'll just say quickly
Yeah.
in the spirit of time, but I think the key is we can't try to go viral. You're not going to
Yeah.
go. It's just, you have to, again, just be authentically as you need to be. Like with that quote, I didn't try. It was just literally what came to me when I was, had just experienced so much rejection, and I was like, what's up? And like having some choice words for God and the angels. And that came to me. And just quickly, my favorite story to illustrate what we're talking about is 20 years ago, Shelby Lynn won Best New Artist at the Grammys as a country singer. And when she accepted her award, she said, it only took me 13 years and 6 albums to get here.
Yeah.
One of the only acceptance speech I've ever remembered. And the fact that you get Best New Artist after being in the game that long. And she also said, for me, it's always been all about the music. So she could have tried and done all the like bells and whistles and shenanigans to try to, sell more records or get more notoriety. She stayed true to her craft in the music. And yeah, it took 13 years and 6 albums, but she got her award.
Definitely. And just to add to that too, because I just had a conversation with someone about this, how Chris Paul just lost in the finals and how Carmelo Anthony, I'm a big fan of for a long time, hasn't won a final championship. And you think like, man, these guys have been in the league for so many years and they're such great players, but they haven't won the top tier achievement. But for me, I solely know that they just love the game. They love that they can wake up and play basketball each day. They love the process. Same with Kobe, whether he won zero championships or the 5 or 6 that he did, he, loved the game every single day. He loved the basics. And then to your point about that artists who could have made the right adjustments, the promotional adjustments to maybe blow our name up a bit more, those players could also join these super teams that are now happening. And they haven't, more or less. I mean, they've joined teams that might be a bit better, but not truly the 3 or 4 superstar, player teams that would almost guarantee them that success.
Yeah. So I think again, that message of really just staying true, trusting in yourself in the process and keep going, kind of combining a lot
Yeah.
of themes that we've spoken about.
Awesome. So last question I have is, what is your definition of extraordinary?
What a great question. I'm going to just do how things come to me. So,
Yeah.
I'm even closing my eyes if people can't see me and I just let the intuition come in. But being extraordinary is the courage to be who you are and who you authentically need to be. And not just for yourself, but for the world, to really identify your gifts and strengths and leverage that in a way that energizes and uplifts a cause or organization near and dear to your heart. And being extraordinary is not just focused on yourself and your own success, but truly being committed to making everyone around you better. Being extraordinary is allowing people to be seen and heard and acknowledged in your presence.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kate. This was incredible. Thank you for being on the show. Thank you for doing the hard work of putting together a book that so many people can learn from, and not only putting a book that sheds a lot of light to your life, but it's a framework that they could then take and put into action. I'd love to ask, where can I send listeners to learn more about you and the book?
Sure. So my website is kateeckman.tv, KateEckman.tv, like the tube that you watch. And you can go to thefullspiritworkout.com for all the information on the book, where to purchase it. But it really is everywhere online and in stores where books are sold. And I would love to connect with you online and keep the conversation going and really keep building a strong community where we can all support one another.
I love it. Thanks again, Kate.
Thank you so much.